Hi, everybody. Welcome to our virtual Career Tuesday. We're the Business Career Development team, and this is our second virtual Career Tuesday of the semester. We are very excited to have everybody who's joining us live. I also want to shout out to those of you who will be watching the video later. We know you have classes and our time doesn't always work on your time. So we will be hosting this on our website for the entire semester. I am absolutely thrilled to invite 9 panelists that we have joining us today from National Geographic, Disney, and ESPN. For a few housekeeping things, please use the chat function to get us started. Students later on who want to ask questions, if you put them in the chat, Tricia will follow that and we'll bring those questions up later. Because we have so many talented panelists, we want to make sure they all have a chance to answer the 3 really important questions that we asked them about their experience at the company, what their major was, how they got started. I want to remind everybody again that this is being recorded and that at the end of this, so when we're done talking with the panelists, they have an amazing video that I really want you all to take a few moments to watch. It's on their business employee resource groups. So there's so much amazing diversity and programs going on within these organizations. I want to make sure you take a few moments to be able to watch that video. So instead of me talking for the whole time, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Jill Lesser. Jill, just do a little wave so they know which one. Yeah, there we are, right. Well, she's right in the center of my screen. Jill's the Vice President of Integrated Communications and Brand Management for National Geographic Partners. And one of the cool things about this session is that you're going to get all these insider points that you don't necessarily get. You're not going to get it off the website. You're not going to get it from reading a job description. Every one of the panelists today has agreed to tell you about their experience and about the company. And Nat Geo, which I learned, when I first went to one of the sessions, National Geographic, they go by Nat Geo. ESPN, Disney, they're going to talk about how the company is all integrated and which areas you might be interested in. So kicking it off, like I said, Jill's the Vice President over at National Geographic Partners. And I want to give her the chance to be able to talk with all of you. I'll be bouncing back and forth sharing screens, but please remember the chat function is there. And we are really excited to get started. There you go, Jill.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you to the University of Connecticut for inviting us. This is actually really exciting for the National Geographic team. As Kathy said, we here represent a number of different roles at the company, and we feel very passionately about helping to cultivate the next generation of National Geographic explorers. And for us, a National Geographic explorer is certainly the traditional kind, the explorer that you associate with the National Geographic brand, scientists and photographers and storytellers who are all over the world illuminating the wonders of the world through science and exploration and storytelling, and connected to the National Geographic Society. But really, we all think of ourselves as National Geographic explorers because we are constantly thinking about and exploring how we grow the brand and how we bring inspiring products, experiences, and content to our audiences. So one of the things that is often not necessarily understood is that there are a couple of different ways from a career path to engage with National Geographic. The first, and I'll just summarize this really quickly, is, as I said, through the National Geographic Society. So global nonprofit, has been around for 133 years. It, for a long time, was the publisher of the iconic National Geographic magazine. It funds individual people who then bring stories to life. So it is not an organization that funds organizations. It really funds people creating impact on the ground. So whether you are interested in engaging in some of that activity and or helping to be part of a nonprofit environment with everything that brings, in a place that engenders love of planet, that is an enriched opportunity. where the folks on this call really come from is National Geographic Partners. And we are actually currently, and I'll go through this a little bit, actually a joint venture. And several years ago, we took all of our commercial lines of business and put them into one entity. So Kathy, if you can actually go to the next screen. So just from a historical standpoint, as I said, the society was founded as a 501c3 in 1888. Early in the 2000s period, we developed the National Geographic channel, which is, I think probably many people are familiar with the National Geographic channel. You will find it on most multi-channel video platforms, whether you have cable or satellite, and probably for most of you, if you're living on your own, maybe you don't have any of this anymore, because most people have oftentimes done away with traditional cable. But the creation of a National Geographic channel was done in partnership with News Corporation. And over the years from 1997 all the way up to 2015, there was enormous growth in our TV programming. We have had a variety, over time, 2 and sometimes 3 channels available on different networks. But one of the exciting things that happened in 2015, and it's what brought us to where we are today, is that National Geographic, the society, entered into a joint venture with 21st Century Fox. That was an opportunity for us to take all of our commercial entities and provide a revenue stream, really, if it all works out, in perpetuity for the society, and enabling them to have a value that a lot of nonprofits don't have, which is this really incredible revenue stream and funding. And so into that joint venture went our television products, the magazine, and what we now call National Geographic Media. So the magazine is our, kind of iconic product. It is still a print magazine, but if you engage with our editorial content and lots of our opportunities over social and a variety of other ways in which we communicate, we do that through NG Media. We also have a really robust experiences business that where travel, Nat Geo Expeditions is in the center of that, as well as National Geographic Live Entertainment, where we see explorers live on stage, some immersive location-based entertainment, and that falls into experiences. And then we have a whole category of really products. So consumer products, publishing. We have a very robust publishing business, and we have we have an emerging games business. So if you look at all of the different assets that were put under National Geographic Partners, some of these are older examples, but you kind of see how we bring all the businesses together. And then, as some of you may know, in 2019, the Walt Disney Company actually acquired the television assets of 21st Century Fox. And so our businesses are now part of the Walt Disney Company. And if you go to the next slide, Kathy, which I think is the last slide, what you see here is just a summary of how to think about our enterprise model. So we really sit in the center of storytelling while the society manages science and exploration and education. We work closely now and are integrated more and more into the Walt Disney Company. That has a number of really huge benefits for us. One is incredible expertise. So our content experts are merged into and collaborate with content experts across the Walt Disney Company, and that includes the Disney Channel, includes FX and Freeform, ABC. So really rich opportunities for collaboration. We enter into, as an example, a consumer products business and an experience business that is unparalleled in the world. And what we are working on now is having that infrastructure that Disney has, enabling us to grow this brand that focuses on fact-based storytelling in a way that we haven't been able to grow before. So, we have our own consumers. We collaborate really nicely across different Disney assets like ESPN, and there are some really cool examples there. But for people who join us, it is both an opportunity to work for the Walt Disney Company and an opportunity to be connected to this really incredible, iconic brand that many of the people here are working hard to make sure it is a relevant, accessible, and exciting brand for people of all ages. So I will stop there and turn it back over to you, Kathy.
Well, I have to say that we've had several meetings between everybody on the group, and the really exciting part about talking to everybody that you're going to hear from today for panelists is, there's National Geographic, ESPN, Disney, but all of you tell this wonderful story of it's one company, but we all have our own unique areas of it, right? So it's not that everything kind of just folded into one company and, now it's just the Disney partnership. Now, Nat Geo and ESPN and Disney all still have that same wonderful feel to it that you were talking about. So
yeah,
I think the big part of that will be in what the students hear today.
Yes.
So I stopped sharing my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then do we have Brian who's going to join us now?
Yeah, hi y'all. So my name is Brian Howard. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm actually on the nonprofit side of National Geographic that Jill was just talking about, the society. And I'm a specialist on our Explorer programs team, and I do Explorer talent management. So basically, I work with our entire network of grantees. Those are our scientists, our storytellers, our educators, and I help them get their work out there into the world, wherever they may live, wherever they may work, whatever they may work in. So for example, whenever someone at National Geographic, whether it's the for-profit side or the nonprofit side or Disney or outside of Nat Geo, wants to work with one of our explorers, they put that request into my team and we help figure out who's the best person. So like if our education team wants to find someone who works with Antarctic seals to talk with middle school students virtually for a presentation, I go back and I'm like, okay, who do we have who does Antarctic work and works with Prem? Prem is perfect for this. He'd be great with kids. Let's see if Prem's available. And I help make those connections happen. As part of that work, I also coordinate an internal speaker series so that we can be more proactive about getting a diverse range of explorers, people from all over the world, people from all walks of life, in front of staff so that we've got folks who are top of mind that aren't just the same for people that we've used historically, but we can really build up a lot of folks. In terms of my own background, I went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I graduated in 2015 with a degree in theater and English. So I really didn't anticipate ever ending up at National Geographic, though I, of course, have always loved the brand. One of those stories where my dad loves Nat Geo. I worked for a while in nonprofit theater. I did something called dramaturgy. I also did literary management and new play development. So I worked really closely with playwrights and actors, directors. Then I did some grant writing. And now I do this. So I kind of would just say, I don't have a scientific background, but that doesn't mean you can't work for a company that deals with science. It's actually crucial that we have people that come from all different walks of life so that we can talk about stories and we can help kind of distill complex scientific ideas into those bite-sized pieces for the public.
And I love the fact that you were a grant writer for nonprofit theaters in Connecticut.
Oh yeah, I worked in Waterford actually, the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center for a couple summers.
Beautiful down there.
Yeah.
And if you coordinated the virtual speaker series, I may steal you. So just letting Jill and everybody know that we may be reaching out to Brian to see if he wants to coordinate some of our speaker series. All right. Absolutely. And then again, so I see that there are some questions coming into chat. This is great. We We do have permission to share the bios of the people that are on the panel. So when we are done, when we put up our summary of this, as well as the video, we'll be happy to share the bios. And now I think we get to hear from Michelle Reynolds.
Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Everything sound okay,
Yes.
Kathy?
So far.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you for having me as well. My name is Michelle Reynolds. I am of the College and International Recruitment team that falls with under the Disney organization. I have been with the company just over 29 years. I celebrated, and I actually joined the organization straight out of college. As a hospitality major at university and joined the Walt Disney World Resort in food and beverage. From there, over the transitioned into the recruitment side of the business, hence where I am today, many years later. So I will say, as far as what our team does, and then I can share a little bit bigger picture. Our team directly recruits for all programs for the Walt Disney World and Disneyland Resort. So the Disney College program, which you may be familiar with, we're actually 40 years of recruiting that program this year for those participants who are coming. This is a pretty significant opportunity, as I am a as well for many, but that's how I got my first step in the organization.
Michelle, I'm gonna suggest for just a moment. I think if you turn your camera off the video, the sound will be clearer. And I hate to lose the video, but
no, that's
we
okay.
might want to try that for a second.
Where do I? Let me just do that.
I think it's at the bottom of the screen. It should say like stop video.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. Tell me, is that better?
Yes.
Is that better? Perfect.
Yep,
Okay.
perfect.
I apologize about that. So I don't want to rewind and take more time, but I actually started on this college program. But this is for our team, we are talent from across the United States, colleges to have them work in entry-level positions at the Walt Disney World Resort. They sunsetted for a bit of time, and we are just relaunching into now students back. Can you still hear me okay, Kathy?
Yeah, I think we're getting the good gist of it, Michelle. So, I mean, the big part of it that I heard is that the program has been going on for so long and that you're reopening it again.
Exactly, exactly. So there's exciting opportunities with that, as well as the Disney professional internship, opportunities that we have across all of our in the TWDC that really provide a breadth of opportunity, all majors in various businesses that that college and university status can be part of to begin to explore are out there in our larger company. So I'll pause there because I know it might be a little hard to hear.
That's okay. And for a big part of that, I think students, we never want to just say like go to the website and look at the career page, but there's such a strong correlation there between the Disney programs and the internship that you have. I think there's really good insight there for the students as well. And we can also pop some questions in there if people have them, if that's okay with you, Michelle.
Of course.
Okay. And then I'm pretty excited to also introduce Tucker Toole. And I should have said this earlier, what everybody's titles are like before. This is kind of cool. Tucker Toole, history resident, which I want to know more about at Nat Geo magazine.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Tucker C. Toole, and I am a history resident on the history and culture desk with Nat Geo, and is a part of Nat Geo Partners. And in my role as a history resident, I write, research, and report on my main beat, which is race in America. So I've been able to cover race in America along with a number of other history and culture stories for the National Geographic website, along with the History of Zine. So, and I also started some background. Started with ESPN The Undefeated. Around my junior year, I was selected to be a part of that program as well. So I did get my professional start with Disney, and at The Undefeated, I was also covering the intersection of race, sports, and culture. So not only was I covering sports while at The Undefeated, I was still covering topics of race and culture as well. So um, that opportunity definitely prepared me for the residency with National Geographic as well.
All right, thank you. Elaine, we're going to call on you. Elaine's the general editor, ESPN Digital, Investigative, and Enterprise. I think you're our first person so far from ESPN, Elaine.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Elaine Tang. Thanks for having me. I'm an investigative editor on ESPN Digital's Investigative and Enterprise group, which is sort of a mouthful, but that basically means that I work with reporters on long-term features as well as breaking news of an investigative nature. So lots of crime and legal and that sort of thing. But before that,
what's going on there, huh?
Yeah, right. When athletes get in trouble, I get a call. No, I'm just kidding. Before that, I worked at ESPN the magazine as a features editor. So I worked specifically on Olympics, soccer, esports, international sports, and sort of assigning and writing and editing sort of feature coverage of those sports. So as you imagine, in my day-to-day, it looks like I do watch a lot of sports at work, which is sort of one of the perks of working at ESPN. And last year, I did some editing at National Geographic, working on the history and culture desk, working with Tucker, among others. And so I think that's one of the really cool things about working at the company is sort of the breadth and the depth of opportunities that you get, subjects that you get to cover, people that you get to work with, opportunities that I never thought I would have. If you told me, oh, you'll work at ESPN and that'll help you work at Nat Geo, like that's not really a thing that I ever imagined happening. But that's really cool. As for sort of how I got here, I did the high school newspaper, I did the college newspaper out here in Massachusetts at Amherst College in Massachusetts. And then I was sort of like, journalism is terrifying, and everyone's always getting laid off, and I don't want to do that. And so I went to grad school in the UK for a year. And then decided I actually just missed journalism so much. I really wanted to be that. So I, was really, I told myself to be brave, and I came back and I got an internship in DC at a political magazine, and then later got a different job at another political magazine, The New Republic, and sort of never imagined myself in sports. But, I think there's one of the virtues of working here is that they want people with different ideas, with different backgrounds, who bring different perspectives. And so when I came to ESPN, I was pretty intimidated by not knowing very much about sports, and I still don't really know a lot about sports really in comparison to a lot of other people. But as long as you have good ideas and all of that, there's a place for you. So I would encourage you all to explore and not to worry about that.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we tell students that, like it's not major specific for some of the jobs that you're looking at, they kind of nod and go, okay. But then when somebody like Elaine tells you that she's not a huge sports fan, she's working for the company that we always connect with sports, that's the difference, right? So that's why these panels are so valuable, because hearing your voice makes it feel more true. So again, we'll have people jumping back in after everybody has a chance to introduce themselves. So Anika, Director, Development, Nat Geo Partners. Where are you, Anika? There you are. Please pronounce your last name for me.
Hilton Donaldson. Did you hear that?
Beautiful.
Okay. It's a long one. So yes, I'm Anika Hilton Donaldson, and I work for National Geographic Partners, and I work in creative development. And I didn't necessarily think this is where I would end up per se, but I think for me, creative storytelling has always been a part of my life and the things that I'm most passionate about. My background actually starts, I was actually a musical theater arts major. So I went to Howard University, the Howard University in Washington, D.C., and I went to the College of Fine Arts, newly titled the Chadwick Boseman College of Fine Arts, and he was actually one of my classmates. So for me, that's a part of who I am. It's what I love: music, theater, being creative, storytelling. So for me, storytelling started out on the stage and performing, as well as directing and stage managing. And then that shortly, probably about 2 or 3 years into my my early college years, I decided, hey, I want to see what it's like behind the scenes, because I started to get into directing and love that. And so from Howard, I decided to take a minor in communications and studied radio as well as TV production, and then decided to pursue that even further and went to Emerson College in Boston and learned how to edit, direct, and that kind of thing, and produce from there, and got a master's in directing, producing for television and film. And from there, I just decided, okay, let me pursue this further, started working freelance, which is kind of the gig when you start out doing production, being production assistants, all the way to associate producers and producers, and then ultimately landing at a big network and working for Discovery Communications, where I worked for almost 10 years in production and operations. And storytelling still was a part of the line of interest for me. But you'll find, like a lot of people talked about in their career paths, that these skills become transferable, because things that are natural talents for you, just they don't go away. So you just try to figure out, how do you make them work for the careers that you're passionate about pursuing. And so for me, I'm logistical minded, but I'm also creative. And so from there, it kind of made sense, after doing several launches of brands at Discovery Communications, from Science Channel, working on HD Theater, as well as working on Planet Green at the time, but that's no longer there, and also military. And now we know it as Discovery Times and those things. And then came to National Geographic and have been there now about 9 years. And I worked in the National Geographic Studios group, where I produced as well as wrote for a lot of our shows for Nat Geo Wild. And it was actually shortly after Nat Geo Wild launched that they brought me on to help to build the inventory of programming for that network. And so now for me, I'm working in creative development, specifically around talent, content storytelling. So my life came full circle somewhat in terms of the creative storytelling aspect. And so it kind of makes sense that I am where I am right now in terms of telling those types of stories. So for me, my everyday is involved in trying to find talent, as well as developing storylines and perspectives that are very representative of the global brand that we are. So I think that's my time. So I'll pass it up, and I'm sure I'll have more to share about some of my background with you and the questions you have.
Okay, and I just wanted to point out that I mentioned that we'll be watching that video at the end on the business employee resource groups, and Anika, you're part of that leadership for those groups.
Yes, thank you for calling that out, Kathy. Yes, and I am actually a co-chair of the Black Berg at National Geographic, as well as I'm on the Black Advisory Council for the Walt Disney Company, which connects with all of the different segments you heard about here, ESPN and Hulu, as well as some of the Disney Marvel organizations. So yes, more to come on that. Excellent.
And then Ashley, Vice President Production at Geo Partners. And I'm sorry, Ashley, but it's just so cool when I read words like 1,000 hours of content with programs like Savage Kingdom and the Hidden Kingdoms of China.
Yep,
The coolest jobs.
I gotta say, I do feel like I have the coolest job. I mean, I love hearing all of these other people on the panel as well, because like, oh, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. But like Anika, I think, and Elaine, I started out as a math major in college. I ended up doing political science. I didn't know what to do when I left, so I lived at home because it was free for me for like a little bit. I worked at TGI Fridays and was a waitress. I ended up getting a job at a magazine, and it was at that job, which was a fashion magazine, and it was as miserable as I could imagine it being on one level. But it was also the place where I suddenly saw the behind the scenes creativity of making videos, music, narration, pictures, and people. And I was a viewer before that, but I had never been on that side before. And my brain kind of went ding. And it was so clear to me that's what I wanted to do. So that I just kind of went after it. And I got a job doing jazz and classical music and opera. And after a while, I was there for a while. I worked hard. I loved what I was doing. But I thought, if I could do this, if I could do National Geographic, I would be in heaven. So then I spent the next couple of years, and it just kind of all, you put it out there and you work hard, and it kind of happened, which was amazing. So I produced films for a long time. I traveled the world. I had an absolute idyllic life in my point of view. I think like Anika said as well, like I have left brain, right brain. Like I love storytelling. I love engaging people, but I also like the very practical side. And, there are various kind of iterations of the National Geographic kind of motto and brand, which I'm sure Brian can probably tell us all what it is, but fundamentally it's changing the way people see the planet. And I take that to heart, and that's why I love where I work. We are a collective of all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds with different abilities, and we work as a team to fundamentally achieve that goal. So my job in production is I work with the team that produces all the nature content. So we have a team of the four executive producers and myself, and we get to oversee everything from what we call kind of the vets and pet shows. So it might be, a reality show about a veterinarian, up to those kind of big natural history shows that just kind of blow your mind because they're so beautiful. So we do that whole gamut. And at each time, we're also looking at the metrics, we're looking at research, we're looking at all these different elements that we can then kind of infuse into our bodies as we're guiding our producers to make these films, to really engage the biggest audience possible, or to be as most effective as possible. So again, it kind of comes back to that, the little girl from math, the math major me when I was 17 years old, the political science major, which is really about, expressing yourself, hearing people, arguing, writing, all that, and the creative storytelling, which I love. It kind of all comes together. And it's like, how, maybe I can't get everybody to suddenly donate to a conservation cause tomorrow, but maybe they won't actually throw their bottle out the door, out of their window as they're driving on the highway. That's a win. So we just kind of, I love what I do. We get to move the ball forward. We engage with producers all over the world. So it's really, it's new people. It's people who've been there forever. I have been at Geo for 16 years. And I will say that for me, one of the things I love about where I work, I work very closely with Anika at times. Brian's down in DC, Jill's down there, is that when we're not in COVID, our building is exactly what you guys all imagine it might be. I mean, you have these photographers walking in, you have explorers walking in, Brian's, the live events are there, there are screenings, there's photography displays, and I just get this little injection of enthusiasm for me every day I walk in and out of that building. So come work with us. We love you people.
I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people on the call right now that are going, me, pick me. Ashley, I mean, I can kind of picture you as a little girl in math class going, when am I ever going to use this? How is this ever going to help me?
I just have to interject that I too started out as a math major and ended in political science.
No way.
Oh, yeah,
right.
That is the craziest thing. So we'll talk about that later.
We will talk.
Yep. And thank you for calling that out, because I know that we've got students on all kinds of majors on the call here. So everything from digital media to finance to accounting to communications. So we opened this up to all students across UCONN. So I think there's a lot of ding ding messaging going on here, which is so fun. And I so appreciate all of you being so genuine. For the students that are watching this live and the ones that are watching it later, just take a moment to realize, pulling together 9 people from the company who are all spending their Tuesday afternoons with us and just telling us their story. But of course, you're storytellers, so I guess that helps. All right. So now, Felix, Felix is, where are you there, Felix? There you are. So Felix is marketing creative for Nat Geo Partners, and you also have a cool title. So project coordinator for the marketing creative team, which I know there are marketing students that are on this call who are very interested in what you're going to share.
Well, it's nice to meet everyone. I graduated from Towson University in 2019 with a degree in mass communications with the emphasis on public relations and advertising. And it's crazy because I'm hearing everyone talk. And I realized, I was like, wow, I'm starting to remember what it was like to be in college. And I was like, okay, I do remember back then, I've always been strategic. So I was like, oh, I really want to work for Nat Geo. They're in the DC area and my family's from here. And I was like, I want to work there because I don't want to move from the area. And also I've always wanted to work in media and entertainment. And I remember thinking back then, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get to there because, you know, I was like, I don't go to a big name school or anything like that. But I feel like it's important to look at it and figure out how to get there. So step by step, I think someone said that earlier. So in college, I made sure that I had like 4 to 5 internships. I made sure that all my internships were in different things so that by the time I graduated, I can tell employers, like, I know a little bit of everything. Like, I'm not, you know, the best at anything yet, but I know how to do a little bit of everything, which is perfect for my job because, so like they said, I work in project management. So we do a little bit of everything. So it's hard to explain exactly what I do. Some days I'm doing administrative duties, I'm doing invoices, contracts, vendor management, and then some days I'm in creative brainstorms and I'm, you know, giving feedback to producers on the assets that we're producing. We produce all the promos for on air, all the print that we put out for our shows, and then we also do social and digital assets as well to help promote the shows. And we promote all the shows for Nat Geo Channel, Nat Geo Wild, and now Disney Plus. Well, all our Disney Plus originals. So every day is a little bit different for me, which I like because I feel like growing up, I always saw my mom doing, you know, the same thing. She worked in finance. And I remember always being like, I can't do that. Like I need to have a little bit of everything. So that's how I got here. I just basically looked at everything growing up and saw what I wanted to do and I just went after it.
I like the advice, you know, trying out different internships to figure out what you want to do, right? That's kind of the benefit of being in college. Those freshman, sophomore, summer, junior internships, you really get to be, you know, you get to explore there a little bit in some of the different roles. All right. Last but least, we have our UConn alum who is on here. And I know there's a lot of students. Kristen just graduated in 2019. Let's see, digital media and design, and he was on UCTV. And actually, we were talking with one of the students who got on earlier about UCTV, and I could see like the smile on his face, going, "Oh yeah, I remember all of that. Those college days from all of a year and a half ago."
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of surreal to be here with all my, not my former classmates, but future alumni. So yeah, I did graduate from UConn in 2019 with a degree in digital media and design. And now I work at Nat Geo as the promo scheduling coordinator for National Geographic Channel, Nat Geo Wild, and Nat Geo Mundo. As far as my day-to-day duties go in this role, I'm kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to the post-production of our promos. So some daily tasks would include, you know, collaborating with our promo editors and producers to schedule mix time and all that kind of thing. I also work with some of our partners, such as ESPN, ABC, and other networks to get our promos to them and their promos to us. And then one of my other daily duties is doing quality control on all of our promos before they're pushed to wherever they have to go to make sure they're free of errors and inaccuracies. And amongst a whole bunch of other tasks that I jump into every day as well, but those are some of the 3 main ones. My journey from UConn to Nat Geo started, like I said, with a lot of time spent at the UCTV studios up at the Union. I think that, you know, UCTV was one of my favorite and most useful experiences at UConn. There's like really a department for everyone there, and I would just highly recommend it. Even if you don't know if you're interested in TV, it's just a lot of fun. You'll make a lot of friends, and you'll definitely find a place there. After school, I spent some time as a corporate videographer in Arlington, and then finally landed at Nat Geo just in time. It was March 2020, so I snuck in right before, you know, the whole world kind of shut down, which I'm super grateful for. And then as far as sort of what it's like to work here, it's been a great experience. You know, I grew up reading the magazine, watching the channel, you know, both Disney and Nat Geo, and everybody has been super welcoming. The collaborative environment has been excellent. And something I want to shout out is Nat Geo has been just super supportive and flexible, you know, sort of figuring out the whole work from home situation, which I've, you know, really found valuable and I appreciate. So thanks you guys for coming today, and feel free to reach out on LinkedIn if you have any more specific questions. I'm happy to chat about UConn or Nat Geo or anything anybody has questions about.
Christian, I'm going to put you on the spot for just 1 second. Like, what's one of the skills that you found really important for you when you were interviewing with Nat Geo? What's one of the things that you really spent time talking about?
I think one of the things that they really appreciated was that I had some production experience, even though my role isn't directly, you know, hands-on production. I'm more on the logistical side of things. They liked that I, you know, had the experience, and that again goes back to UCTV as well as a lot of freelance work I did while I was at UConn.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I know we've got students from all different majors on here, so being sure that you're, you know, for the students that are listening, you're paying attention to what everybody's telling, but also know that the jobs in finance, the jobs in marketing, the jobs in certainly like the data analytics of, I think it was Elaine who was talking about, you know, what everybody's looking at, you know, how to tell, you know, what the data is that you're paying attention to. So
yeah,
analytics also another one.
Absolutely. And not to turn it into a UCTV seminar, but there is there's a finance manager position, marketing manager position. So, I mean, you really can get all the experience that I think you would need, you know, right there on campus, which is very cool.
And for those of you that watch for our newsletters, and if that's how you found out about today's session, is there is a link in the newsletter right underneath the description for today's Virtual Career Tuesday that speaks to all the jobs and internships that we're talking about here today. All right, so I'm going to see if I can use my super skills here to play the video, and then we're going to come back for questions. Is there anything, Jill or Eleanor, that you wanted me to touch on right before we do the video?
Eleanor, I'll defer to you, but I do think it speaks for itself, but happy to answer questions on it as people have a chance to watch it.
Okay, so then let me share this. So, can you see it? I'm actually going to move it over to this screen here. Get this out of the way. And then let's see if we can make this play.
What's a BERG?
BERG stands for Business Employee Resource Group.
Can you hear it?
The BERG serve as a vehicle to highlight the importance of integrating our cultural views.
We lost the video, Kathy.
Yeah.
You lost the video altogether? Okay.
We're not seeing it on the screen. We're hearing it though.
Oh, you're saying, so you can hear it but not see it. All right, let's try that one again.
Into the choices the organization makes.
Is that working?
I don't think one person necessarily wants to see everything through one lens.
Yes.
And BERGs offer different lenses.
This is something we should all always be thinking about. How to be more inclusive, how to represent people better in our stories or our work. We're all people, and we all have our identities that we're bringing into the workplace.
Let's go.
Representation matters, makes a huge difference. We've gotten to know each other, we've gotten to support each other.
I can tell you that our OLA meetings are active, chaotic, really fun.
I just feel like I'm learning something completely new about like a community. I feel grateful to be on the front lines. We're trying to build bridges and we are trying to create understanding.
NORDC is dedicated to empowering and cultivating Black leaders at National Geographic.
Women Ad is obviously women's issues as they pertain to the professional world. The Ola Berg is a fantastic meeting of the minds of those of us with Latinx heritage. Nat Geo Pride supports the LGBTQ community Apex, the space for anyone who's of Asian American Pacific Islander descent.
The Enabled Berg aims at supporting people and allies that have visible or invisible disabilities. All people are welcome.
To lend your voice, support the voices of people who may not have been previously heard. If you're not sure where to start, it's as easy as joining a Slack group.
I feel grateful to be creating a sense of belonging for myself and everybody who works here.
We cannot do this by ourselves.
It's important to understand what your peers are experiencing so that you can be both a better colleague and a more understanding citizen of the world.
I love that video. I've watched it a few times. Okay, are we back?
Yes, you're good.
All right, beautiful.
Yes.
So one of the things that we ask when we invite employers to come to the session is that when students walk away from watching the video or being online with you, is that they have an idea where like they feel like they've had a little bit of an insider tip of what do they need to do to be a strong candidate for a job. So I'm really going to ask anybody on the video, and I kind of asked Christian this question already, but like what's one skill aside from like the real technical skills that you're going to look for in a UCONN college student?
I mean, I'm happy to jump in. I don't know that I speak for everyone, but, I think it was said really well earlier, which is, being willing to kind of go after it and name what you're interested in. And really communicate that to the person with whom you're interviewing. I mean, it is often the case, particularly with more entry-level jobs, that they are not what you think they are, and there are opportunities to build interpersonal skills, management skills, project skills, really in unexpected ways. And so from our end, it's naming what you're after. I think all of us would say, particularly in the post-pandemic reflection of the workplace, is, I'm looking for someone who's collaborative, who's looking to learn and doesn't, comes in with as many questions as answers. Right. And is really interested in using, particularly a first job out of college, to be a team player, to build relationships and to learn.
I would also just add from the society side of things, the Nat Geo Society side, last May we released a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, Your Story Matters. And I think that really, really is a great way to encapsulate and think about when you're doing a personal statement. We want to hear your story. What is your professional story? How can you connect those dots for us with your background? How does it tie to what you're applying for? But we also want to hear your personal story, because your personal story matters to us too. It's the whole person, right? So we want to hear, what is your specific tie? Who are you as a person? And why is Nat Geo perfect?
Yeah, Brian, I think what you just said is important because, at this point in a college student's age, they don't have a lot of really big stories to tell, right? They haven't had the chance to like cure cancer or found, $1 million organization. But what they've done has been impactful, right? It could be something small that they had an impact on their corner of the world, and feeling confident to say, this is who I am, and this is why I think it's relevant to working at your organization.
And Kathy, can
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Michelle. I know, hopefully you can hear me better now. But yeah, I think what you just shared was important, because I don't feel you don't have the experience because you don't have this big job on your resume, or you didn't work somewhere for a year that was consistent. Maybe you've done multiple smaller jobs. but think about, how you approach your job, how you think about the work you did, and how you can translate that to somebody you're talking to, because it says a lot about who you are. So it's less about the skill set, or I've done this for 5 years, or whatever it may be, but see if you can just share more about how you approach things, right? How you interacted with your leader, how you were able to get a club and organization up and going, or be part of it, right? Be part of a larger team, and what things were important to do that. So again, don't overthink that you don't have something to offer, because you do. You just have to kind of break down what your experiences are and bring those forward.
That makes a lot of sense. And also think that if we recognize the fact that the last year and a half has been a very different experience for, a college student for working, those traditional internships weren't necessarily there. And I have heard such creative stories from students about what they did during this time, like that independent learning, or they started a nonprofit, or they did nothing other than the fact that they spent 40 hours a week helping to serve meals in different parts of the country. And there's so much value in that. And from all of the stories we've heard from the panelists, that's part of being a good citizen, which is a big part of being part of your organization. I do want to give a chance for anybody on my team, if like Judy or Sue, if you have a specific question that, something that I haven't mentioned yet that we should bring up before we open to student questions. And I always put people on the spot. They're used to it.
I wanted to ask a question. Can you hear me?
We can see you, Judy. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why my video stopped, but whatever. Anyway, what I wanted to ask, because you are 3 different parts of a corporation, on Handshake or on your websites, are all the jobs segregated into the separate companies?
I don't know whether Michelle wants to take that.
I'd be happy to. This is some of the work we've done as talent acquisition from the Walt Disney Company standpoint over the last many years. And it was really to begin to pull all of that together. And before we did, you'd be amazed that there were, I think, close to 40 different sites across our company that were sourcing talent. So you'll find now that everything falls under disneycareers.com, but then you can begin to filter, whether it be by location, the entity, the type of work. There's multiple different things, and then it'll elevate those positions to you. So even if you have something like marketing and you just put in marketing, unless you filter down, you'll be able to see everything across the organization within that field. Obviously, if you're talking internships, there is a way to just quickly filter that under our programs tag. But to answer your question, yes, it is all there, being sourced from one place. That just allows our talent to be able to get exposure to our greater organization.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to
You're
add
welcome.
quickly, the only exception to that is the National Geographic Society. Our jobs are posted in a slightly different way, because while we are connected with partners and with Disney, we are kind of a separate thing as well. So that's on our separate career page, as well as our internships. We have a summer internship program that's about 10 weeks. Those applications open in January, and that's on there too. I'll put the links in the chat.
Wow, that'd be great. And I think, Brian, isn't it with the internships for the society, you may need to live in a specific state?
So historically, the internship has been in person. So you're in DC. Last summer, we did a virtual internship, and it was limited to states where National Geographic Society already had tax withholding set up.
Okay.
I'm not sure this year might be different, but that specific list of states from last year, at least, is on the Q&A for the internship page that I'll post in the chat. And like I said, I'm not sure. It might change this year. We can't quite tell what it'll look like.
Right. Thank you. And then Michelle, can I ask this question? Because, oftentimes when there's a company like for the Disney umbrella there, and there's ESPN, Disney, National Geographic, is there any hesitancy for a student, or should there be any hesitancy for a student who wants to apply to all 3 companies? right? If the job is pretty similar and their skill sets are relevant, can they apply to all three?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And you'll find specifically to call out from an internship side that we don't discourage it. So it's not that, I think sometimes applicants or students will ask us, is there a limit to the number of positions I can apply for, or is this too many? And really, it's less about the number of positions and more about you, and be purposeful with your application. So I think we've all heard the term spray and pray. That's probably not the tactic you want to go down. But what is it that, look at the qualifications, look at the work, and say, does this align with where I want to be? So this is not, you want to find yourself doing that work, and that is okay, right? So when a recruiter opens your resume, they can see like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get why, Alan would have applied for this position, right? They see that connection. And you want to be able to highlight that, whether it's developing your resume and your experiences to that role.
Right. That's really important. I mean, that idea of, does it make sense for you to be applying to different roles? And as career consultants, we will remind students applying for 700 jobs on LinkedIn or, on a job website is not the way to find, the jobs and to connect. Do you use LinkedIn at all, Michelle, when you're looking at students? Like if you get a candidate and you're having a conversation with them, will you ever also look at the additional information that you can add into LinkedIn?
Yeah, certainly. And that's specifically, I would say, from our professional internship and professional recruitment entities. We'll find that more. For the Disney College program and our entry-level positions, we wouldn't typically go that path, but that is certainly a path for us in a way to network and connect and get exposure and provide exposure as well to some of our, positions. Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Now, I do want to give a chance for students, if they want to raise their hand, then I can, Trisha can unmute them. So let's see how we do it. If there's a student who wants to take a moment to ask a question.
Yeah, they can actually unmute themselves.
Oh, there you go. So is there a student who'd like to ask a question? This is your moment.
I'd love to ask a question.
Hi, Rowan, go ahead.
Hi. So this is kind of geared more specifically to Michelle, but if people have things to jump in on, that would be amazing. I'm a December graduate. I've had, the 4 to 5 internships. I actually did the Disney College program in spring 2019 and I had an incredible experience. And Disney has always been a goal company for me. I recently applied to some sales planning roles in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so my question is just, once you've done the internships, what would your next steps within the Walt Disney Company be? It can be really hard to connect with recruiters via LinkedIn. A lot of them are on LinkedIn Premium, and it can seem pushy to kind of make those initial connections. What would your advice be?
No, it's a great question. First of all, congratulations on the work you've done this far, and I'm so glad you're an alumni of our program. And I'll say that as well, because there is an alumni association that we do have that is, to your point, a great connector, because it's a connector back to the organization. So whether you're inside the Disney organization or not, it's another way to connect with individuals. So, right, with how to stay connected and network, the Alumni Association is one of those things. But I do think it is also connection with previous leadership, right, that you've been with, right? It is sometimes hard to break down those barriers, right, and get that somebody to call me back from my hosting or whatever it may be. So I think connecting with those leaders, certainly an opportunity like this, you now have myself as a resource. I can, right, I'm here. So, right, we are out here outreaching to students, and I look forward to you doing that back in return. And we can be a resource and get you down that right path to the individuals who can help you. But it is also, who are the contacts you have, and do you continue to facilitate that relationship is also, I believe, very helpful in this process.
And Michelle, if she's applying for roles that are just completely separate from the Disney internship that she did, Do you think that a cover letter that explained, I worked the summer Disney internship and now looking to work in, just making this like the data analytics side and make that connection that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I'm going to answer that a little twofold, because whether or not cover letters are required or needed is, I'm going to be honest with you and transparent, is really up to the recruiter who's posting for it, right? So the resume is always going to be kind of that requirement in that place that we want to see who you are. So that doesn't mean I wouldn't say include a cover letter, because you don't know who is reading it or who is not. So if you can facilitate some of those connections there, I think a cover letter is great. But anywhere you can infuse that on your resume to allow that to be seen, and those connections you've had with the company, it is definitely a strong egg in your basket, right? You begin to understand the culture, right? They'll take, recruiters will take a second look. So I do think it is important to put that in there. The piece about the cover letter is, it is just one of those things that some postings require it and some may not.
Yeah. And I think what Michelle may not be saying is, if you're going to do the cover letter, make it an impactful cover letter that is for the job you're applying to. It's, a template of a cover letter that just says, hey, I'm interested in applying, here's my skills, isn't going to get the value that you're looking for. But make it intentional, and then it's worth it. Excellent. Any other students who would like to ask questions? And you do have the ability to email our team with questions afterwards, and we're happy to reach out to the Geo team. I want to make sure that I'm really mindful of the panel's time. They did agree to do the hour. So if somebody has questions, we have 1 minute more. If there's a student that wants to raise their hand. Alana, are you trying? Yep, there you go. There you go. I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Thank you all for speaking with us today. And I just had a question. So the student who just spoke was graduating soon, but for students who are maybe earlier in their academic careers, like freshman or sophomore, do you have any recommendations just for exploring what you want to do and career paths that lead to something at National Geographic or Disney or any of your partners?
Question.
I can sort of answer that from the aspect of when I was a freshman at Morehouse College at HBCU. I really didn't see many professional internships for freshmen or even my sophomore year. So I sort of took initiative and participated in free internships or non-paid internships just to sort of get that experience. And was able to build my resume that way. And from there, was able to use that to apply to the Roden Fellowship with ESPN The Undefeated. And because I had that experience with local newspapers or shadow experiences with different media companies, that led to ESPN being able to, recognize that or see that I had that experience on my resume as a sophomore or that freshman summer. So.
And Anika, thank you. I just want to do one thing. Anika, talking about the employee resource groups, I think students who don't have an internship but perhaps are really active in a club on campus might be able to use that as a really similar experience.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. And that was a great point that that Tucker mentioned there, is to get yourself involved. I mean, if it's an organization, just knowing the type of global brand that we are and what we represent and what we actually champion, in addition to diversity and inclusion, which is the employee resource groups base here, but we also have sustainability and conservation, as well as photography, and news, journalism. So getting involved with organizations like that, whether they're available on your campus or in your local community, go a long way, because it shows that you have a drive and passion and are willing to give time, your time, as well as your invested energy into something that you're passionate about, that is important to you. And for our Bergs within National Geographic, it has become a part of our company culture. And for us, I think it was Brian who said that you want to bring yourself to the organization so that we see that authentic you. And a part of that is who and what you identify with, and having that voice heard on campus. And that's a part of what we celebrate in the Bergs, is saying that we are all included, we all belong, and we have a voice. And that's what you saw in that video clip. And so I would just definitely recommend, getting involved, whether it's within your school organization, but then bringing that same passion to National Geographic. It will definitely be recognized, but more importantly, you'll feel like you are part of something that is representative of you, as well as something that you're passionate about. So,
and I think, Christian, you had your hand up, and then Ashley, I think you were trying to say something too. So let's do Christian first.
I was just going to mention some specific opportunities at UConn that sort of play directly into that. I already spoke a lot about UCTV, but also you've got the Nutmeg, which is a quarterly magazine that has opportunities for creative editing, photography, and writing. And then there's also the Daily Campus, which is the newspaper. So those are all interesting because it's sort of a mix of a club and employment, because you do get paid for the time that you work there, which is like kind of a perk, of course. But you also get that club experience, and you come out of it with things that you could put on your portfolio or your reel that you've worked on creatively.
Great. Anika actually said a lot of what I was going to say. But I just want to flag for all of you guys that I think what Felix said earlier about having different experiences, it's more about what you do than it is having a direct path to something. We all have different paths. I mean, you can look at anybody on this panel who's speaking. It doesn't sound like anybody started out with the intention and actually just delivered on that one single thing the whole time. Mm-hmm. Life happens and experiences happen, and that's what leads you to places. But reaching out, showing up here, that's a great step, and then doing whatever you can in your club, showing that passion will help. And just one last thing for us is that, what your experience is and what our job is, we actually want to talk to everybody. We want to bring in different voices into what we do. So your path may not be the obvious one, but it might be actually the one that we kind of need and want to kind of broaden out our environment. So we have different voices in the room doing whatever it is that we as individuals do.
That's so helpful. And Elaine, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add sort of along the lines of what Ashley was saying, but I think for journalism, but I think more broadly as well, like so much of what you like or whatever you study or you're interested in can help you with your job. You don't have to major in journalism to be a journalist. I didn't major in journalism. But like oftentimes, like someone like say you majored in economics, like that's actually probably more helpful in some ways, because you can go be a finance reporter and you can understand the jobs report or like whatever is coming out of Wall Street in a way that like I can't as someone who doesn't have a background in that. So I would encourage you to like think, like you follow your, passion and what you're interested in, but not think sort of narrowly as to like what, I majored in economics, I have to work in finance. Like there's sort of all sorts of opportunities, and that sort of expertise in those fields actually would help you immensely in something like journalism.
That's wonderful. God, there's just so much here. I could keep talking for hours. But so Brian, thank you, Brian. In the chat, he listed the jobs for the National Geographic Society, remembering that those are a little bit different than the ones that are on, the Disney site. So paying attention to those. Is there anybody on the panel who wanted to add anything? And I know that you need to drop off, so if anybody has to drop off, please feel free.
I actually wanted to add one more. Oh, did I speak over someone?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to quickly add something, Brian, before you speak to it. Just as you were talking, Kathy, I was thinking, like I came from theater arts, and I can't tell you how many days that I've actually used a lot of what I learned in theater arts, music, as well as it's helped me in casting, essentially picking talent, because I know what it should look like with someone in front of the camera, as well as picking the right music for shows that I'm actually working on and developing. And then also thinking about a lot of the theatrics that are necessary in aspects of the storytelling. So just knowing that your path may not be linear, and just knowing that some of those skills that you may start out with in your college experience can still work in a career path down the road. So just don't be too narrow in terms of your perspective on what choice you take.
All right. Brian?
Yeah, as someone, I think as someone who used to want to be an actor, I feel the same way. Like I use all those skills all the time. I was just going to add one more thing. The Society's education team has an initiative for folks 16 to 25 called Gen Geo that has a lot of opportunities. There's a free storytelling for impact courses that's in partnership with Adobe that you can check out. It's also a really great newsletter. They have opportunities for some grants. Again, for folks who are 16 to 25, you don't have to be an established scientist or anything like that. They do workshops and things like that. And they have other opportunities. They're continuing to build this out. So it would be a really cool thing to just keep tabs on as you're looking for other opportunities and ways to engage with Nat Geo. So I'll put that link in the chat too.
Oh, that would be great. And we will make sure that we add that to the summary. And Christian, I noticed also in the chat, you've added some links here to student employment and clubs. This is why it's so cool having an alum on here.
Yeah, I just checked out the Nutmeg site. I forgot I shot the fall 2017 cover.
Really?
Yeah. It's the guy holding the puppy. So
Well, I
funny.
bet you're missing the ice cream, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Can't be beat.
Yep. All right, listen, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody on the Nat Geo team. I can't even explain to you how wonderful it is to have 9 professionals who took the time out of their afternoon to just be genuine, have conversations, and to tell your stories. So we appreciate it very, very much. We are going to stop the recording, so if anybody wants to stay on for a minute or two, that you are welcome to do that. But for